At the back, we have a few highlight features of the phone that's mentioned, including support for the 65-watt fast charging. Now let's quickly open the seal and see what we get inside. Now we have a little paper sleeve here which has the instruction leaflets and a case. Next up is the Realme 7 Pro itself. Now this is the mirror blue color that I have. Let's place it aside and see what else is there. This is the Super Dart fast charger, and as you can see, it has an output of 65 watts. Next is a USB cable. And finally, it's the SIM eject tool, and that seems to be pretty much it. Okay, so now let's take a look at the Realme 7 Pro. As you can see, I've gone ahead and set it up and installed a bunch of basic apps. And first of all, before we get into some of the features and stuff, let's take a look at what the phone has to offer on the outside. So over to the right, we have typical placement of the power button. We have the volume buttons on the left. Down at the bottom, as you can see, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, USB port, and the speaker. There's also a SIM tray over here. This can accommodate 2 nano SIMs and a micro SD card all at once, which is cool. And we'll take a quick look at the finish. So this is something that Realme calls a mirror finish, or a mirror blue color at least, and it creates these funky patterns when light hits it, which looks pretty cool. The 7 Pro is now actually a bit slimmer and lighter. So the 7 Pro weighs around 182 grams, so it's a tiny bit lighter, and it's slimmer as well at around 8.7 millimeters. But the big addition I think that Realme has made, a couple of big additions, and one of them definitely is stereo speakers. So finally, the Realme 7 Pro finally gets stereo speakers. So you have the bottom firing one, and you have the one on the top as well. The earpiece also doubles up as a speaker. And not only that, if you go into the settings, these speakers also support Dolby Atmos enhancement. So here you can see Dolby Atmos is active currently for the 2 speakers. You can select a bunch of different modes. Now the second big change, of course, is the display itself. It's not the size, it's still a relatively large display. This is a 6.4-inch panel, but instead of an instead of an LCD display, Realme has switched to a Super AMOLED panel, which is really nice to see. So the bezels are fairly slim. There is a bit of a chin, but it's not that much of a bother, and we have a hole punch cut out in the display. But again, we will get to the cameras in just a bit. Now, speaking of the display, the AMOLED display is obviously pretty nice. The colors are punchy. Brightness gets really good as well, really high as well, which is all good to see. A full HD plus display, so everything is sharp. However, it's only running at 60 Hz. The Realme 7 Pro is still running on the Snapdragon 720G, which, don't get me wrong, is still a good chip. I don't have any major complaints. Now, the 7 Pro is going to be available in 2 variants. You're going to have a 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. And there's also going to be a second variant which will have 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. And as you can see, the one that I have here is the higher end variant. Now, in terms of software, of course, this is Realme UI, which is running on top of Android 10. So again, a similar set of features. You know, game space, you have Realme Lab, where you have some experimental features and stuff like that. So again, very similar. There's not much to talk about on the software front, at least. Here we have a single selfie camera, a 32 megapixel sensor. So here also the primary camera is still a 64 megapixel sensor, but Realme has switched it from the Samsung GW1 to the Sony IMX682 sensor. Then we also have an 8 megapixel ultra wide. There is a 2 megapixel macro camera, and there's finally a 2 megapixel depth camera. And of course you have the LED flash. However, Realme has added a few new features in the camera app. So if you open the camera app and go to video, first of all, you'll see there is a new ultra night mode. Now this should give you brighter footage, I'm guessing, when you're recording in low lights. But you also get a bunch of new filters this time, and these are modern gold, cyberpunk, flamingo. So again, these are some new color filters that you can use in night mode again. Now, a couple of other things that I want to go over before we wrap up this first look video. You do get an in-display fingerprint sensor because this is an AMOLED display. So as you can see, there is an always-on display as well as an in-display fingerprint sensor, which seems to work decently well. You also get a 4500 milliampere battery in the Realme 7 Pro, which according to Realme you should be able to charge it from 0 to full in about 34 minutes thanks to that massive 65 watt charger.